it's like a negatively balanced. So if you're moody or something, you're not happy, it's longer time scale than like a brief surprise or something. A surprise operates on different time scales. So you wouldn't want something operating at 60 hertz. It's just as mood. You want something like a little bit longer than that.
Yeah, it depends on the granularity that you're looking at in your analysis. So again, the mood is a good example. Moods are a little bit more, again, they're not as dynamic or constantly fluctuating as emotional states are. They're also less directed towards particular, stimuli or object. They're a little more abstract in terms of what elicited them.
I think, and this is the lowest frequency ones that we're using. Like now they're 250 hertz. That we don't need this lowest one that we can get 60 hertz. But as Greg mentioned, like if you want to do like word processing, then how the linguistic research does it, then you have to have something which is more like precise than second level.
Like for even, I think from Toby, we can even look at, they look at something on the screen, and then we can see the next saccade is like up here, and we can measure the angle and difference between these 2 points. That's like zero interest for us, but like some people do the research on that. But that's data that's collected with the machine. So I mean, yeah, some of this information we don't need, and the time scale we may not need it. But and that's why it's difficult to like work with these data, because like Reza was saying, we can get like 400,000 lines of code of data for that, and we don't really just want a number, just like a single number telling us how long we've been working there. So it's difficult trying to like take all that and translate it into something that we can use on SPSS.
Yeah, trace data, you have to chunk it in some way to look at it.
I think we're sensitive to like how do you what do we need, and like everything else we're like no. It's just like come up with a project, like, pick the stuff you need for that project, and then try because like working with even one stream of trace data is tough.
Yeah, 24 columns of data, weight 100,000 lines. So you just delete everything and do like
SPSS.
2 or 3 lines, and even those are hard to work with.
Excel kills itself.
Yeah, so we had to resort to Francois's expertise.
Yes.
For us.
What does it mean if you have, so if you've got all those, the eye tracker, and if one thing is saying something but the rest aren't, or, I mean, like... Usually
the physiological measures are more reliable because like body doesn't lie. If you're high cognitive load, you will show it. Like, if you're anxious, eyes don't want fine. Yeah. If you're anxious, you will show it in your general activity. So that should be a higher level of reliability. But face data, some people can have like poker face. They don't show their emotions, so that is a bottleneck.
It's these inferences you make to the phenomena you're interested in. Say if you're interested in attention, the president mentions the eye-mind link, and that's like the lowest inference you can make. Like you can say that where your eye is looking is where you're paying attention to. Well, some people can eyes glaze over and stare at something for a while, so they're not actually attending like we think they were. But that's one of the lowest inferences we can make in our data, saying that looking at something means they're attending to it. Yes, most of the time. Sometimes no. So it's trying to go for the lowest possible inferences you're making, and those are the most trustworthy. So physiological stuff, eye stuff, like eye streams. Those
are. If you're staring at something for like 10 seconds, and then if you don't think aloud, if you do think aloud, so you know that you were staring, but you were saying something that you were thinking about what you read a few minutes ago. But if it's only eye tracking, it's difficult to make sense of that. So it's always important to see what they were doing in different channels of data.
Yeah, so you bring in something else to try to converge that. Oh, if you have 2 conflicting things, like you were saying that something's telling you they're not paying attention, the other thing they are paying attention to. Well, you try to, it's difficult to make sense of. But you try to lower your inferences as much as possible.
We'll be talking about that very specific issue in 2 weeks with regards to emotional data channels.
Okay.
But I mean, as Greg said, it really depends. Not all. The channels will tell you generally different things. So it's not a matter of like looking at everything for one research question or one sub-question for what you're looking at. You have to kind of match your research question and match the process or phenomena you're looking at with those measures as well.
I mean, like that's not even like touching on what self-reports give you.
That's only online measures.
I mean, that's and like this online measures, something like. They're not too bad trying to find consistency, and I like the stuff I've been looking at. It's not too bad trying to find consistency because someone who in this JEP paper, people who engaged in more effortful think aloud protocols on this paragraph, for instance, in the study too, with different people, they spent longer time reading them. So like you can see that the effort, like the increased effort here is shown in increased reading times, but these are two different samples, two different people who are doing these things. But yeah, like self-reports, like they're like that's I think throws in like a wrench to things because like divergences in between those two methods are plenty.
I also can use self-report measures as landmarks, like we did for project. I mean, when you report that you're confused, so we definitely know that, what do they call it? Grounded truth, yeah. So you say that you're confused, so you go back a few minutes to see what caused that confusion. So we definitely know you're confused. So whatever we get from the physiological data is true, or whatever we get, emphasis we make is true. So mixing these different self-report measures and online data will even give us more information.
And like I won't talk about a whole lot, but like the method that Jason adopted, like inserting like the self-reports within the session lowers the inference because at that point they're not like trying to remember what did I do last year or what did I do like 2 weeks ago. It's happening at the moment, and so yeah, again that's going towards lowering your inferences you're making about what's going on. Like they say they're confused. They're likely confused, but they're just right there rehearsing it at the time.
Very confused right now.
Because these questionnaires are like 15-10 minutes apart, so it's definitely something happening in those time windows. I can easily scroll back, analyze everything which is there to see what happened, what caused that confusion.
Something like a very well used question in the MSLQ asks about typically, do you feel confused when you study like this content? Like that's tough. It's tough to do because
it also depends on, again, we're going to probably talk about that next week. Actually, Sean, I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to talk about that a little bit next week. Also, again, looking specifically at emotions, but also for SSRL, whether you're looking at something as a process that's unfolding, whether you're looking at it more from a trait basis. And this has implications as well for how you're going to measure a phenomenon and how you're going to interpret it.
If you think something is an aptitude, and then I mean you generally, I mean I usually get confused when I read the text. If you assume there's an aptitude, it won't change. So you use questionnaires, and then if I'm like usually confused with this type of text, and then you treat me like that. But we believe it as an event because it's dynamically changing all the time. So we measure them all the time to see.
And I think it's a philosophy like that sees that this person is limited. They are this, and they're always going to be that way because that's a part of their characteristic. Seeing it as a skill, when you call it a skill, you see as something you can develop and get better at over time if you want to. But it like trait like aptitude, like it's limiting some people. That's kind of like I think that's why they don't like learning science. It's kind of the reason.
I just have one few questions. Do you plan to use voice analysis devices?
As I once discussed, the quality of voice that they're getting, that they're using in emotions analysis, the pitch analysis, I think it should be very different. And the microphones they're using, I think that are like
Special.
closer to the mouth.
We can't look at, we tried using Dragon for transcription, and it was just awful. We're using a stick mic. The audio recording quality is quite high, but the audio recording quality that you need for transcription, also for those of you who were at the current presentation a few days or last week ago, what they were using as well was first, the translation was the mic right in front. We can't do that because we're looking at facial data, and this really obscures.
Actually, that's an important point to mention. You can't like the think aloud stuff. Like when I was reading these articles, they always separate it from the behavioral measures because the think aloud stuff. While the assumption they make is that it's non-reactive, it doesn't have any other effect on cognition other than the fact that you're just talking aloud. The only thing it does affect is the time. And we see now it also affects like other physiological measures like the face data. Like when you're talking, it affects your face, obviously.
Yep.
So it affects and if you have a device called Face Reader, it's going to affect that data coming out of it. So like they always separated the think aloud measures with the behavioral measures. So they always had 40 people come in and do the think alouds, and then another 40 people come in and do the behavioral measures. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.